As a young girl, she'd been given away as a wedding present to a new bride. And when that bride became pregnant, her husband, that's my great-grandmother's owner and master, exercised his right to take his wife's slave as his mistress. That union produced 2 children, one of them my grandfather. At age 15, barely able to read or write, he hitched his tuition, a steer, to a rope, and walked 100 miles across Kentucky to Berea College, and the college took him in. When he graduated from Berea in 1892, the college asked him to deliver the commencement address. He said then, "The pessimist from his corner looks out on the world of wickedness and sin, and blinded by all that is good or hopeful in the condition and the progress of the human race, bewails the present state of affairs and predicts woeful things for the future. In every cloud he beholds a destructive storm, in every flash of lightning an omen of evil, in every shadow that falls across his path a lurking foe. He forgets that the clouds also bring life and hope, that lightning purifies the atmosphere, that shadow and darkness prepare for sunshine and growth, and that hardships and adversity nerve the race as the individual for greater efforts and grander victories. While we struggle today toward greater efforts and grander victories, we're still being tested by hardships and adversity. The rich have been sitting at the banquet table. The rest of us have been on the menu. So the gap has grown between the haves, the have-mores, and the have-nots. Between 1996 and 2006, CEO pay rose by 45%, while worker pay rose a mere 7%. The top 300,000 Americans collectively now have almost as much income as the bottom 150 million Americans. The top 20% of earners take over half the national income, while the bottom 20% get just 3.4%. Plutarch warned an imbalance between rich and poor is the oldest and most fatal of all republics. Black Americans, of course, are more likely to be poor than rich, and they're worse off than their white counterparts. Almost every social indicator, from birth to death, reflects black-white disparities. Infant mortality rates are 146% higher for blacks. Chances of imprisonment are 440% higher. Rate of death from homicide 521% higher. Lack of health insurance 42% more likely. The proportion with a college degree 60% lower. And the average white American will live 5.5 years longer than the average black American. The fragility of middle-class life for black Americans is illustrated by our downward mobility. Nearly half of all blacks born in the middle class 40 years ago have descended into poverty or near poverty as adults, compared to only 16% of whites. White unemployment is high enough at 9%, but black unemployment is even higher at 15.7%. Home ownership for blacks, already low, has been sinking under the weight of the subprime mortgage crisis, which stands likely to be the largest loss of African American wealth we've ever seen, wiping out a generation of home wealth building. Blacks were 3 times more likely to have subprime loans than whites, with such loans accounting for 55% of loans to blacks and only 17% of loans to whites. Just as President Obama's victory didn't herald a post-civil rights America or mean that race had been vanquished, it could not and did not end structural inequality or racist attitudes. Indeed, there's evidence that it fomented them. President Obama is to the Tea Party as the moon is to werewolves. Within 1 month of President Obama's inauguration, Rick Santelli, a CNBC anchor, christened the Tea Party during a February rant about poor black homeowners having homes and mortgages they can't afford. "It's time for another Tea Party," he shouted. "What are we doing in this country that will make Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin roll over in their graves?" In fact, I teach at the University of Virginia, founded by Thomas Jefferson, and I know he wrote approvingly in 1811 of taxing only the wealthy, which meant, he said, the farmer will see his government supported, his children educated, and the face of his country made into a paradise by the contributions of the rich class without him being called on to spend a cent of his earnings. One of the Tea Party's heroines says, "Obama is the most un-American president we've ever had." What is it that differentiates Obama from every other American president? From its inception, the Tea Party has been both ahistoric and racist. Glenn Beck accused President Obama of harboring a deep-seated hatred for white people. Rush Limbaugh routinely refers to the health care bill as reparations, invoking slavery's angry descendants to imply incorrectly that most of the law's beneficiaries are non-white. In reality, the Tea Partiers are puppets of their puppet masters, are a consortium of corporate chieftains and financiers. Their clear aim is to repeal Their clear aim is to repeal the progressive achievements of our lifetime. The new health care bill, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the right to join labor unions, unemployment insurance, the Department of Education, and the Environmental Protection Agency. The notion that the Constitution does not authorize many things that the federal government now does was incorporated in the Republicans' Pledge to America, more accurately, a Pledge to America, which requires Congress to show the constitutional basis for any new law. Now the requirement for the first time in history has been incorporated in the rules of the Republican-controlled House. The two